I had to,
This is good stuff.
this was a depression again, and I was in the hospital.
Well, tell me too about what they did in Italy for when kids
my
got
father
hurt.
said that in Italy, if a child was hurt, you went to jail because you were neglected.
Your parents.
Because you hear about these Italian families, especially of her generation, who would never let their kids play sports and things like
No,
that.
my father,
I'm sure
we weren't allowed to
that's
have a
why.
bike or a sled or anything.
Because they were afraid if they got
Yeah,
hurt.
because we would get hurt.
But he knew that he wouldn't go to jail.
Yeah, he
Here,
knew
right?
that, but we still weren't allowed to have it. But anyway, what happened to him?
No, what you're
What
telling
happened
the
to
arm
you? Your arm
story.
broke.
I'm sorry.
Your broken arm
Oh,
story.
yeah.
That's what you're telling.
I had to go to the hospital, and I had to stay 7 days in the hospital. So my mother came to pick me up.
And you broke your arm at school.
At
right?
school, yes.
Yeah.
And when the
Neglectful
principal
teacher this time.
and when the principal drove me to the house, nobody even came out of the house but my brother. And the person that drove me from school said, "We're taking your sister to the hospital." So they took me to the hospital, and I was in the hospital 7 days. And so that was a depression, and they said, "You can come and get your daughter. She can go home." And so she went, and he said, "Well, you have to pay the bill." My mother said, "Well, I can give you $5 a month." He said, "No, you have to pay it all, or she can't go home." My mother said, "Keep her."
She turns to walk and he goes, "Okay, we'll do a payment plan. It's okay. Come back. Come back."
They let me go home. I thought my mother was smart.
Well,
How was she going to pay? You know?
Well, yeah, she couldn't pay for it, and she knew that they didn't want to raise you.
I don't know.
They didn't want to
I don't
keep
know
her.
what to tell her. My mother said, "Keep her." It never. Did you know what I told everybody later? Never gave me an inferiority complex. A child today would have an inferiority complex, terrible one.
Well, I mean, nowadays
You
you get like
shrink.
you get
Yes.
the
Oh, you'd be put in jail if you
Yeah.
said keep her.
well, I mean, you get the parents who are like who try to get the kid like the kids won't come. They're like, "Come on, we gotta go home," and they're like looking at a toy. Or like the other day, the girl that hid under the rack of clothes in motherhood maternity when her mom was trying. I don't know if you were there at that time.
Yeah.
But she hid under a circular rack of clothes, and her mom's at the door, like trying to get her to come. The other kids run around. She's carrying another one.
Well, I
This
want
one
to
little-
tell it about when my father, when he was living at home, he wasn't married yet. Yeah, he had a sister that the mother was boiling water on the stove, and somehow she dumped it on her, and he would go to the jail, so they didn't take her to a doctor. And what happened, because she laid in bed like this, then her skin adhered. You know, when you have a burn, it sticks. So he
Who
said
is
that
this? Your mother?
my father's sister,
Oh.
rest of her life she walked like this. And he would cry when he would tell us about it, because he said she could never have children, she didn't get married, or he felt terrible about that. So we were overprotected. You know?
Right.
We couldn't have sleds or bikes or anything. So one time my cousin, he was an only child, and Junior had a bicycle.
Junior.
And he came at night. I said, "Junior, let me ride your bike, okay?" So he let me ride it. Well, I didn't know I was going to hit a bump. And I hit the bump, and the damn something took a hunk out of my leg right here. And I never told them. Never told them nothing. I never got, infected. Never got infected or anything. I went home and washed it off, and then I had a gap for a long time right here. And see,
A gap or a
Like
gap?
a kid with a
Yeah.
bike
Walk it
shine,
off.
you wanted
it
to wreck
it was a little gap where some of the tissue came up, you know. I thought, "Heck, I ain't telling nobody." And another time, I have to tell them the story. This is a good one. When you come from a big family, you know. I threw a shoe at my sister Florence, and it went through the window.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And it broke the window. And I thought, "Oh
That was
my
after you
God, I
slept
broke a window."
Hold on, hold on.
I thought, they're going to kill me. So we had a neighbor that had a store, but they had a house where they kept their trucks and cars. It was like maybe four cars or
You
trucks
mean
in
like
there.
a garage?
Yeah, it was a garage. And so in the garage, steps went upstairs, and there was an apartment down there. So I hid under those steps. I thought, I can't go home, they'll kill me. They're going to kill me. So I stayed under there, and I stayed under there, and I stayed under there, and it got dark. I thought, well, I got to go home. I can't sleep under these steps. I went home, nobody mentioned it.
Nobody even knew. Nobody noticed.
Nobody mentioned the window. All that suffering I did under those damn steps for nothing.
Well, see, right there, you punished yourself. Parents didn't have to punish her. She was sitting under the stairs like, for like hours on end.
We were something else, I'll tell you. 10 kids, you can imagine.
A window's going to get broken now and again.
Yeah.
Some fork's going to come out of somebody's thigh. It's just the way it goes.
And you can imagine when all of us got married, and everybody came home every Sunday to eat.
Oh my God.
Kids and all. And the kids
2,000 people
sitting
walking
in the kitchen.
Like,
it was neat growing up in a big family. I can remember being in the cellar crying. Well, our cellar was like on the first floor. You know, and then this was a kitchen and a dining room, and then this was a cellar where my mother washed and everything. And this was a cellar where they put the stuff they canned and stuff, and then we had a coal cellar where they dumped the coal, you know. And so I would, well, what was I going to tell you?
You said you'd go down, you'd cry in the cellar.
I would go in the cellar and cry. And my brother Costa would say, Ellen, what's the matter, honey? I wouldn't talk. I would just keep crying. He said, honey, there isn't a problem we can't solve. You tell me what's wrong. That's the kind of upbringing I had, you know.
And then
Tell
once
me
it
what's
was all
wrong
better,
after
like,
you're done cleaning the cleanser.
Tell me what's wrong and then get the cleanser out of the bathtub. I was thinking the same thing. I was like, tell me what's wrong and then go run me a bath.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, honestly. And I had one brother that he always said, if you make an A in school, and I never had any trouble.
I thought you always told me you made C's.
No. I made A's. Don't worry.
Yeah.
She's not worried.
I never made like Costa. Costa and them were smart.
You told me you never made A's. You were dancing. You never studied. You didn't eat lunch.
That's high school. That's high school.
Oh, high school she made C's. She was busy
I'll
dancing.
tell you, when my father, 1922 was the strike, coal miners' strike, and they brought blacks from the south to work in coal mines, and the operators threw their furniture out of all of the houses because they were operators owned the houses. So my father
They
said
threw them out of the striking workers.
they threw them what?
The striking
Many of the
workers.
striking workers lost their furniture.
Yeah, the ones that were striking, like my father. And so
You okay, right?
Rascal.
So my father said, they'll never do that to me again. He went to one Italian, he said, will you give me some money? I have to build a house. They're never going to do that to me again. He said, then I'll pay you back. And he gave him money. He went to Mr. DeGregory, and he said, you give me the bricks, Jess will work every summer to pay for the bricks. So my father built a 3-story brick house with a bathroom, and we had a place to live. And he would never let you know.
He would he'd never be in a position where somebody would get mad at him and owned all his stuff.
Exactly. That's what he did. So, and he was tough on the boys. He was tough on the boys. You know? Like during the when Roosevelt took over, WPA. Remember, he made Costa go out and be a timekeeper. He said, "You go." He never allowed.
He was old enough, right?
Yeah, Costa was smart. And he never allowed us to go down and get the free flour or any butter, anything that they were handing out. That was charity. No, my father would never let us go down and get any of that stuff. And a lot of our friends, that's what they, it helped them quite a bit. My dad, he ran up a store bill. He said, you give me groceries now, and when we go back to work, I'll pay off what I buy from you the week, and I'll pay off 1 week that you had given me before. And that's how we did it. And
The store was just happy to have a customer.
Then my uncle had a store, and he said to my mother, how are you going to keep this house? How are you going to pay the mortgage on this house? And my mother said, what the hell's the bank going to do with all these houses? So my mother paid the interest and kept the house. I mean, they weren't dumb. You know, they might have been from Italy, but they weren't dumb. So they got to keep the house.
I was going to say, it's a good point when no one can